Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another edition of our Ease Central demonstration. My name is Scott Deal, and I'm the Vice President of Product Management for the Word & Brown General Agency. Our trip to Ease actually began back in 2014, and when we were first asked at a broker advisory council, for an online means for benefit enrollment and administration, and at the time, we reviewed, 21 of the applications that were out there, some of the leading names like PlanSource and Maxwell Health and Benefit Focus and Employee Navigator, and we settled on Ease and Benetrack, and we settled on Ease for a number of reasons. First and foremost, it put us entirely in control of the entire process, which to me, as a person who likes to do things to the utmost of perfection, allows us to provide the same quality of service that we are known for in the marketplace. It also gave us quite a bit of flexibility to be able to set up and arrange for the enrollment across a myriad of products all in one space. And that was very appealing. And then lastly, it provided us still the same comfort of a human-based administration tool. So nothing automatically goes over to the carriers, and for good reason. I don't want any kind of mistakes being EDI'd to a carrier. I'd rather have that as part of a separate human process, which it will be as we continue to engage on Ease Central. But one of the things that really appealed to me about the application when I reviewed the user interface was the employee experience, because of its A, flexibility, but also B, because it could be so simple for the employee to actually go in here and enter data. So when the employee arrives, and I'm going to walk you through the employee experience first. When the employee arrives, they'll see that, their company logo and a background image that should be representative of the company, so that they feel nice and at home. There's also a subdomain that's created. So here we have WBGA demo, but it would generally be the company's name that gets placed there, so that employees have an easy thing to remember when they need to go back in and access this website later. When they log in, they're taken to their dashboard, and right now their dashboard consists of generally these three things. The Get Started button is made available when an employee is eligible to enroll in benefits, whether it's an initial enrollment, whether they're a new hire. That's when they see that green button. And even when they're a new hire, it's only after they've completed the waiting period in order to gain eligibility to enroll. But in general, they're going to see Document Library, Manage Benefits, and My Profile, or the View Profile on their dashboard. And this allows us to actually set up a few steps in the process to getting people onboarded into their benefits. So say a good scenario is you have a virgin group and you don't really know the employees, and you need to collect census data. You can literally process a first name and an email for each employee, and we will go in and load the system and send out the request, and the employees will be able to come in here and they'll be able to fill in this profile information, which gets you census data plus. So it's name and address and phone number, and I'll show you the screens. And it's quite a really effective tool for gathering the best quality data that you can directly from the employees. At the same time, you can actually engage in onboarding service that will allow new hire employees to actually come in and apply various other details about themselves. This gets you, in aggregate, it gets you about 80% of the way through the benefit enrollment. So let me show you a little bit about what that entails in a couple parts. Let's start with the document library. Documents are what you want your employees to have ready access to ongoing in perpetuity, right? So things like the employee handbook, a privacy policy, a letter from the CEO, things like that will go in the document library. You can classify documents so that they are, viewable only by one group or another. Managed benefits will actually show the employee what benefits they've selected, a summary of the coverage, and then the cost. And then the profile, which is where I'll take you now. In the profile, if the person is not a new hire, they're going to see only two tabs over here on the left-hand side, the profile and the dependents. If they are a new hire, they'll see the onboarding tabs here. But in the profile, you'll see the employee can fill out the majority of information that's actually going to go on to any application, all the way down to their date of hire, and job titles if you have those and we import them into the system. The system is amazingly flexible. If we don't have job titles imported into the system for your company, this field won't even appear. And there are other fields that we can pull out as well. So for example, this disability tab. So it all depends on how well you know your customer and what data you're trying to get back and extract from them. Standard fields always apply: first, last, middle, gender, birthday, date of birth, social security number, and address information, as well as the phone number information. But the rest of it is pretty flexible in our ability to push or pull. After the employee fills out their profile information, they're allowed to add their dependent data, and this will be used subsequently in the benefit enrollment. If that's all they have, they're still 80% done with the process. But if they're going through and they're going to do onboarding as well, they can add these additional data elements. So you can completely digitize that regular new hire information packet that 99.9% of HR offices, including our own, still hand out to employees when they first come for orientation. So here we've got emergency contacts collected. There's a whole document repository that's specific to onboarding. So if you have documents that your employees need to mark as received, need to review, need to download, sign, and submit back to you, you can create an entire document library here specific to onboarding, specific to the type of employee. So whether it's by classification, by title, by location, and you can mark all of those required for review so that they actually have a date stamp for when they review the employee handbook or whatever else that you've got applied to the account. One of the beautiful things about being able to generate and run this service all on our own is that Word & Brown has adopted and created our own technical support team, and they will actually go through and load all of this data for you. So it's one of the values of working with Word & Brown. And we have a lot of tips and tricks about what we've loaded, and we load quite a few things just completely out of hat, and I'll run through a little bit of those as we proceed through the screen. W-4 tax information can be collected and is applied to the actual W-4 worksheet, the Virgin copy of which is right here, and then employees have an online IRS calculator for if they have any questions about how their deductions will affect their paycheck. It's actually a pretty nifty little calculator too for an IRS tool. The I-9 documentation is what an employee has to submit in order to verify that they're eligible to work in the United States. So these could be a birth certificate, driver's license, green card, or visa, among a myriad of other documents. If an employee is on a mobile device, which most of these enrollments are being operated through by employees, then they can click on Add Documents. It will ask for access to their camera, and they can just snap a picture of the document that they want to submit. So you get a completely digital version, again, of a necessary document for employment. Direct deposit can be set up for one or more accounts. So you can, as long as you add up to 100%, you can add multiple bank accounts here. And that's it for the onboarding experience. So now if I go back to the dashboard and then I go to Get Started, what you'll see is now the benefits enrollment has been applied. But you really only get 2 additional screens here, one of which is selecting your benefits, which is a couple pages, and then the other is Sign Forms, where you actually go and you see the forms and you make a signature, an e-signature on the screen. So I'm going to take you down. So all of the rest of this would have already been completed if we did this as a 2-part process. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do it as a 2-part process. You can do this all at once, and employees don't seem to have any problem with that. The only thing I ever see employees get hung up with in the system is when there's too many plans to select. Our sister company, California Choice, offers dual tier coverage where they have 30+ medical plans. Personally, I think that's way too many for any employee to choose from. What we've been suggesting to brokers is that they narrow the focus down. Find a good option, low and high and low and high for HMO and PPO, and then maybe add in an HSA plan just to really cover the spread. But 5 plans seems to be a real sweet spot for employees. It gives them enough choice. It gives them the ability to really see differentiated options between both carriers and plan benefits as well as rates. And if, of course, you need any help with that, your inside sales consultant can always help you narrow that down for your group's specific needs, whether it's doctor availability or RX availability. Segue slightly into a separate service. Word & Brown offers the only accurate provider and RX lookup In fact, what we do is we actually take the data that you request, so whether it's you sending us a list of doctors or a list of prescriptions, and we go to the carrier portals themselves and find the information about where they're contracted, what tier the drug is contracted on, and whether or not it's a step therapy drug, so that you get basically a presentation-ready response from us that you can go and take to your client and show them what their plan options are that meet their needs. It's the most effective tool out there because it's, again, human-based. Technology and human have to go together. Otherwise, if you're just relying on technology, you'll fail every time. As a technologist, I can say that. So the first screen on the benefits here is the benefit allowance plan. It's a new feature for ease. It's a cafeteria plan where you can set up a solid flat dollar contribution, and your employees can use it across multiple plan types, so medical, dental, and vision, or medical, dental, and vision and life, whatever it is you want to incorporate into that product offering. So your employee sees a running total of their costs based on what they select. So here, now I'm on the medical plan, and on the medical plan, I'm going to highlight a few things. First and foremost, you get to provide instruction for each plan type. So if you pass that instruction over to us, our team will take the time to actually go in there and load it for each of the different plan types. And we've had some really fantastic examples of instructions that have been applied within these Central accounts that really give employees a nice, well-rounded series of things that they need to consider when they're making these plan selections. This is your opportunity, aside from an enrollment meeting, which quite frankly I encourage everybody to continue to hold, but this is your opportunity digitally to actually converse with the employee in a sense and give them a deeper understanding of the coverage that they're considering and the nuance and what they really need to be paying attention to. And of course we help out with that, and I'll show you where. So a couple of things as far as functionality, flexibility. Waiving dependents not entered. This would be a section that we would normally pull out, but I leave it in as an example of a section that we can pull out. We can also leave it in. So say you have a group that you don't really know all that well, you don't really know who has dependents and who doesn't. If you need a catch-all just to make sure that you're absolutely covered, we can even waive children who aren't entered on the system. Kind of a neat feature. Your employees then can see all of the plans that they have available to them, and they can make plan selections. Now, there are certain things that we load completely out of hat. So when you send over a request for us to load a case, we'll go in and look at a quote, and we'll pull down all the plans and plan data and make sure that we load everything accurately. But at the same time, we're also going to take the time to load the summary of benefits and coverage. Of course, the SBCs are required to be delivered by the ACA, Affordable Care Act. And so what we do is we load them here and we mark them required for review. But instead of giving your employees a huge number of documents for them to review, it's tied to the plan here so that based on their plan selection, they only have to receive and review the plan, the SBC for the plan that they are electing coverage under. That's a lot less confusing than giving them a huge packet full of all of the SBCs for all of the plan options that they can consider. We also load things like provider search. We load the links to the provider search as well as instructions. Aetna just actually updated their provider search, so instructions are very, very useful in actually trying to navigate and figure out, how do I get to the value network plan, providers, for example. That was one of the big ones that they changed. We'll also load in things like a plan side by side, because as you can see on the screen, one of the things, and frankly it was a concern for me, the plans don't display side by side, and personally I understand nuanced differences between plans only when I can see the benefits all aligned in a series of columns so that I can make my comparative analysis in one place. eCentral doesn't do that. It's long been something that I've asked them to consider accommodating. But until then, we actually go into our quote, if you've quoted the case with us, and we will place the plans side by side, and we will, even in certain cases, highlight the benefit differences. So if you're going from a current plan to an alternative plan, we can go in and we can show how the current plan compares to all, the particular option that they're considering. So there's a number of different ways that we can slice this. And of course, our team will work with you to make sure that, whatever it is you need loaded for your particular case gets loaded. So there's certain other things We can load a summary of the benefits into the screen. Of course, frankly, for me, that's not as useful as the side-by-side. It's also not as detailed as the side-by-side. So in general, we don't apply these because the side-by-side takes the place of it. If we don't load anything, the employee simply won't see anything in the show space here. It'll just be blank, so they won't know that they're missing out on anything, if indeed that could be called missing out. So an employee can make a plan selection, and let's just say I select an HMO plan, and there will be certain contingencies that they have to take care of based on their plan selection. So we can load primary care collection, we can load contingent plans. So if they select an HDHP plan, we can load contingency on HSA, so we can apply an HSA account collection. We can also do limited FSA, where they can only get reimbursed for dental and vision expenses to accommodate the HSA compatibility. And there's several other things that we've done in the past here. So really the system can be set up to actually reflect the reality of your enrollment, so that everything is consolidated. And in fact, one of the things that we did just recently on this was we actually took the time to load an AFLAC, and it was accident and hospital indemnity and a few other of the really good programs. And employees went online and they actually filled out whether or not they wanted the AFLAC and what variables they wanted to have included in their AFLAC. We passed that data over to the AFLAC rep, who then went in and had a series of targeted meetings with only people who were interested and already had pre-populated all the data for their enrollment. So literally the employee just needed to confirm their plan elections and sign on the AFLAC tablet. It was really a fantastic solution to be able to use. And it streamlined the whole process for everybody, not just us, but the AFLAC rep and the employees. Win-win-win by far. Again, you can collect primary care clinician information. It is mapped into the employee's enrollment form. So for plans like HMO plans, where that's a required field, we do leave this enabled. However, if an employee doesn't know who their doctor is, or who a doctor is, who they can select, they can always mark a sign there, and it's just like writing a sign on the application. The carrier will actually take a look and assign the nearest doctor geographically to their home location that is accepting new patients. All the premiums that are displayed are per pay period, so your employees never need to guess about, oh, what is this coverage actually going to cost me? It's all laid out on the screen for them, and it should match 100% to what they see coming out of their paycheck. And there are reports in here that will help define those paycheck deductions as well. And real quick housekeeping rule, if you have any questions while I'm going through this, everybody is muted today. Please feel free to drop down and write out any questions inside of the question box on the GoToWebinar control panel. Be more than happy to answer those for you. So a good example here, Guardian LTD, because Ward & Brown is actually operating and helping you set these things up, we've kind of extended our service a bit because we want to make sure that you guys are accommodated. I don't want you guys to have to learn a whole new system in order to be able to go out and sell and enroll and do the benefit administration online. Our goal here is to level the playing ground between the small 1 or 2 man agency and the very large agencies that we service as well. And this service that we provided will actually help you to load if we are the primary medical GA, so like for example Blue Shield, but you also have Kaiser Wrap and you also have a Guardian LTD and STD plan. We will load that case in full for you. So we'll load the Blue Shield, we'll load the Kaiser, and we'll load the Guardian for you. And that way, we'll take on the responsibility, we'll take on the ownership of the case to make sure that it's accurately loaded and set up correctly, so that when you get out, you can present with confidence that you're backed by Ward & Brown, which has long been, a long-standing tradition for high-quality support and service. When your employee gets all the way through the process, they're taken to a page for any missing information. And actually, this was one of the features that I liked about Ease. It doesn't stop you. So if during the process, when I was adding dependents, for example, if I didn't have my child's social security number, I'm not going to be stopped there. It knows that I left it blank, and it knows that I need to apply it. So what it does is, at this point, it will come back and it will tell me, hey, you needed to still apply that child's social security number. The great thing about that is that the employees aren't stopped. They can get as far through the process as possible and not have to go back and wait at a specific location in order to get the data that they need in order to complete it to move forward. So real quick, I'm going to go and I'm going to toggle my plan so I can show you what it looks like when an employee is ready to sign. Back to the PPO. So once an employee has completed everything in the process, and by the way, that includes the review of the SBCs and anything else that you've marked required for review, they can see all of the forms that are going to be completed with their signature online. Anything with blue text was completed by the system. So you see here, we've got Nicole's W-4, and also down below, we should have a few other forms that get completed. Here's the I-9. Here's the Blue Shield of California form. So, quite frankly, because these are so clear, legible, easy to read, it's really easing our underwriting process. Our underwriters look for these because they're so simple and because they're far more certain to have collected everything on the employee application that they're going to need. When your employees made their review, including, I hope, of the arbitration clause, which is very, very, very important, they will sign here and they will mark continue, and that will submit the application for processing to the admin side. Your employee will then be taken back to essentially what is the managed benefits screen, which I can't get to because she hasn't completed the process. But it's just a summary of the plan that she selected, the cost, and some of the coverage details. And that will be available to Nicole and any other employee, for as long as they're enrolled in the system. At some point, once open enrollment is closed for Nicole, she will have the ability to later go back in and log any kind of qualifying event. So if Nicole goes and gets married or has a child, she'll be able to come in here and she'll be able to make changes to her existing policy based on certain rules. So like a spouse, you have to come in and add within the 30 days of the date of marriage. So as long as certain rules are followed, Nicole will be able to come in, add the spouse, change her plan, and resubmit an application. At which point, our admin team will receive an email, which we receive nightly for any changes that are made on the system. And then they'll go inside to the admin side of things, which I'm going to take you to now. Please feel free, by the way, to write any questions that you have as I proceed through this in the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. More than happy to answer anything that you guys have outstanding. I know it's a lot that I'm covering in a very short amount of time. This is Perfection Inc. from the admin side of things. So we've listed it as demo group here, no difference. When you land on the admin side of the eCentral application, you'll see that there's some pretty basic and innocuous looking things, but they're very powerful. So on the left, you get the basic group details. But on the right, you have a series of organizational buckets. These are how you define employee eligibility for plans, rates, and contributions. So you can subdivide classifications by all of these factors. So location carve-outs could be if you have an out-of-state employee who can only get the PPO. If you have different divisions that get different benefits, so these guys get medical, dental, vision, and life with this carrier, and these guys get medical, dental, vision, and life with this carrier. You have two separate companies that are co-owned, but they have different benefit packages. You can do all of that on a single administration platform on eCentral. So it's really, really powerful in the way that it allows a single HR manager to perform management on more than one company and more than one benefits program. Very, very powerful stuff. You can do it by department, job classes, and job titles. So, for example, job classes, we had a case where in-house staff had medical, dental, vision, and life, and consultants had medical. So good example of job class. Job titles, an owner generally isn't going to be paying for any of their insurance. So you mark one owner and everybody else not owner, or if you want to keep it simple, and that just allows you to really subdivide again on the contribution for the particular employees. But it's the same. So all of these give you plan eligibility, rate eligibility, and contribution eligibility. The admin is where you can actually go and you can engage teams of people to support you. Really good opportunity if you're going to take on a retail account with East Central. Definitely invite us as a team. We will be able to go in and help you with the setups the same way we do in our free account that we offer. And we'll actually go in there and help you with the admin too on the day-to-day. So setup on these, again, can start with as little as first an email for each employee. You can literally go out and collect data from the employees themselves, gold standard data. But when you get an employee set in here, you'll see from the admin side of things that you can literally see exactly what the employee saw on their side. These screens all look pretty familiar by now based on what I just showed you from the employee experience. However, you get a little bit of additional depth on the admin side of things. So instead of just a personal profile, I also get employment information for Nicole, which is where I can classify her eligibility by location, job title, or job class, or any of the other variety of classifications I've set up. I can do, hire dates. I can do the number of hours. I can do wages and compensation. And one of the nice things is that even if I've entered this data in, just in case I need to show somebody the screen who shouldn't have access to that data, it is HIPAA secured because it hides it. So only if I absolutely have to have access to it and I click on it, then it will show. Otherwise, it leaves it hidden on the screen. I really like that idea. Somebody was thinking. I can custom open up the actual enrollment for an employee individually. So say you have a late entrant and you've got an underwriting approval to actually add them to the policy, you can open up their enrollment and they can enroll through the system. All about flexibility. Logins, so you can set up a login for an employee one at a time, and this would be your opportunity also to troubleshoot. So if your employee had trouble getting in, you can reset their password. They can have a login as an email, a username, or a mobile phone. So whatever works for the employee. We have had a few who don't have emails. I don't know exactly how that happens in this day and age, but if they don't have an email, they generally have a mobile phone, and you can get them in that way as well. You get a complete running history of your employee election. So here you can see I've used Nicole quite a bit for demos. But what happens is if you use the system for multiple years on a single group, you'll be able to track what the employees enrolled in a few years ago, what they've enrolled in today, and maybe have some more thorough, in-depth conversation with them about whatever their needs are that they're trying to meet, especially if they become dissatisfied with anything. It's nice to have all that data inside one spot. The rest of these screens are exactly the same. In fact, benefits, for example, you see exactly what the employee sees. So there's no leaving an employee out on a limb. Though we haven't had very many questions arise from employee engagement on this platform. If it ever did, you could literally walk in to the exact same screens from the admin side of things and talk them through what they're seeing on the screen. So it's a really great way to troubleshoot if there's ever any problems. I think probably the only thing that I've ever heard of is when people arrive here on the medical, this is default waived. And the question that I've gotten, I think a couple times, has been, I don't see plans. I've literally walked into the admin side, said enroll, and said, okay, so now do you see plans? Oh yeah, I see them now. So here's where the documents can be subdivided. So these are shared documents. These are those that are provided to the employee within their personal document folder. Private are those that are retained only on the admin side. So if there's something that you want to upload about the employee, their picture, things like that, you can actually do so here. And then you get their other documents are stored inside of their shared documents folder. Employees are very easy to set up. In order to get all the employees in, there's an import. The import includes almost everything you've seen on the screen about the employee, all the way from a unique employee identifier. So if you're trying to coordinate between payroll in this system, applying that payroll unique ID is probably a good idea, all the way down to first, last, email, phone number, address, hire date, salary, all the way down to even their primary care ID. all are available on import. And then you can subdivide what you're seeing on the screen. So if you want to see just your terminated employees, you can go in there and filter this list here. And of course, you can search for anybody that you need. Plans are probably the toughest part about getting a case up onto eCentral, but they're doing a lot to make it easier. So kudos to them for paying attention to their customers' needs, because they're really doing a lot here. But I'm going to go ahead and take you into an HMO plan so you can see a little bit about how scary it could be if you don't really know what you're doing. And again, that's just one more reason why everybody should be engaging with us to assist with their eCentral cases. And again, we'll load other cases even if we're not the GA, provided we are the GA on the primary medical policy. So bring your cases to us where you've got Guardian and where you've got these carriers that we don't coordinate with or that we don't work with, and we'll help you. If you're in your own retail account and you want to set these up yourself, you definitely can take advantage of our service nonetheless. And what we'll do is we can provide you with QA support. So we have a huge list of all the things that we've missed over time and all the lessons that we've learned. And we'll actually go through your case setup that you've set up on your own if you want to do that. And we'll help you, pick out the things that you may have overlooked, or maybe the things that you don't necessarily know you need to apply. So this is a typical HMO, or actually just a medical plan setup. You see here we've got the primary care ID information required. We've got an admin name and a display name. The display name is actually what gets mapped over to the employee enrollment application. So it's really important that it is 100% accurate. Otherwise, your selections won't stick and you'll get some pending items. You can elect to include COBRA eligibility or not, entirely up to you. This is where you put in the details, the benefit information that I showed you in the show. If you don't put anything in there, it doesn't show up at all. On the eligibility tab, this is where you define location eligibility, as well as class eligibility or anything else that you've defined inside of those buckets that I showed you in the profile. You can set for pre and post tax. So generally, these are going to be pre in the state of California, unless, of course, they don't accept our free POP plan or don't have a POP plan. Age determination has become one of our key factors that we are definitely on top of. The carriers all do this differently, and so it's very important that you set this up correctly, or that this is set up on your behalf correctly. We take the time to make sure that all of your plans are set correctly, and that includes, whether or not the employee's age is calculated at their own effective date or at the effective date of the group's anniversary. It's a big factor to make a difference in the rates. You can also set dependent eligibility as well. You can set rates. So setting rates is very, very simple. You can choose a library to choose from. If you have a retail account and you haven't asked for access to our rates, they are the best rates in the industry. We are the only quote engine that guarantees our rates, and the rates that are loaded into eCentral are from that quote engine. So they are reliable and they are accurate. You can request access to them through your own account's profile, and there's instructions up on our news center for how to get that taken care of, and it's screenshots, and there's a series of steps. I'll show you if we have some time at the very end. You can select You do need to know the rating area when you're setting up rates. If you don't, it is available on the detailed employee rates output page, the PDF page from our quote. So as long as you've quoted from our quoting website, you'll be able to get the right rating area to apply there. Rates are all imported automatically for you. Again, we do spot check these when we do the import, just to make sure that everything's going to show up correctly for the employee. We do that based on the employee enrollment forms, by the way, which helps us to subdivide the location and class carve-outs that may be applicable to the group. Contributions. So eCentral has a wide range of flexibility for contributions. They allow the traditional employer and base plan contributions, but they've also thrown in another one, which I think is really nice, and it's starting to be utilized, pegging the contribution to an employee amount. So it just as a way of defining your affordability per ACA by saying, hey, this plan costs the employees $20, this plan $40, this plan $60. And that way you can rest assured that per safe harbor, whichever one you're using, you're going to be considered affordable by all your employees. Makes 1095 generation a breeze if you follow the safe harbor rules, because you can just say, I am certain I am affordable. The whole process is designed around output of forms. So we apply the forms, whether they are enrollment or change forms that the carrier is going to need in order to process things, whether it's an initial enrollment, a new hire enrollment, or a change mid-policy year. You'll get all of these forms, and you can discard the ones that you don't need. This is where we apply documents. So you see here we've got a link to a provider search. It could be a link to a video. It could be anything. And we can mark them required for review or not. I'm going to skip past ACA really quickly. I'll come back to it. This is your document store. So you see here I've got the ongoing library that's available. You can subdivide and show things in folders to keep things nice and tight and orderly. This is where you would apply anything for onboarding. You would mark it as required for review. And again, here you can subdivide these by any of those classifications. So if you only want to display a specific document to your executive class, as long as you've set up an executive class and you've defined who those employees are, they will be the only people who will see that particular document. You can apply documents here for notifications to all employees or to a subset by class. So say, for instance, you want to send a notification out to all people on Aetna because Aetna has lost a provider on the network. You can set that in here. Endless customization is available. Well, not endless, but a lot of customization is available on the show hide fields. So you see here, for example, we've got the waive dependents not entered section that I showed you earlier, but there are several sections that we automatically pull out simply because they're just not being used by most of our enrollments. But there's other things here like citizenship that we generally pull out. I generally pull out marital location because, frankly, it doesn't matter to me where somebody got married. And you can provide the instructions. So remember I showed you the instruction at the top of the screen. You can apply instructions per plan type, which again, just really ease the employee's understanding of what it is they're selecting. Login information, you can send login information en masse. So if you want to message your employees, you can do a friendly from, and you can apply a customized email that would be distributed with their login information. This is extended to any new hire as well as to an initial setup to engage employees in setting up their profile. To do so, really, it's a very simple process. They just choose their own password, and then they are the owners of their profile. Branding, you can see from the earlier screen that I showed you with the employee profile, here's the subdomain, the logo, and the background image that I showed you when we first started out. People ask me, how do I know when my enrollment is complete? How does this process all work? It starts with an email. If you email us at ecentral@wordandbrown.com, you'll be engaging our team, and you can request a setup for a new initial enrollment, a setup for an upcoming renewal, things of that nature where you need to get people into a digital format. The team will actually respond and request any additional details. If you've quoted the case, if you can provide us with the case name or even better, the quote number that you want to reference, we'll start to pull all that data down and load everything up. And then, of course, if you want to apply additional documents or anything of that nature, you can send those along, whether it's in the initial email or in any kind of subsequent fashion, so that they can be uploaded as we progress on the group. But as far as the enrollment process is concerned, once we get it all set up, it gets quality assured. So they go through and they check and make sure that everything's set up correctly. Then we pass it over to you, and you're allowed to take a review, walk through the screens, make sure that it shows everything the way that you would want it presented. And then we send out that message to all the employees, at which point we start sending you daily enrollment progress reports. So this is a very, very high-level summary of the progress. shows you who's started, who's in progress. Well, it shows you the number of people who have started, in progress, or finished. And then we can actually generate a progress report out of here that shows you in greater detail where people are in the process. So whether they've reviewed the required documents and what dates on the dates on which they initiated their profile, selected their plans, made their signature, things of that nature, and of course reviewed any required documents. You'll get those daily, so those are a really great way for you to track progress. We can also message employees based on any particular bucket. So for those of you with employees who are stragglers, if they haven't started, you can actually send a specific message just to those people rather than sending out, hey, why haven't you started, to all the people who are in progress and who have finished. Again, here, this is something that you can customize all the way down to the from, and you can save it. So you don't have any question about who you're sending things to and what the content is. You create it. ACA module comes free within the eCentral application. It's a huge boon to the eCentral application, in my humble opinion. It tracks two things. It tracks affordability, and it tracks eligibility. And so what it does is it will take a look at all of the factors that in the data that you've put in, both in employees and plans, or that we've put in on your behalf for employees and plans. And it will tell you the number of employees, those who are eligible for benefits, those who are in their quote-unquote waiting period, and those and whether or not you're meeting the MEC percentage. And then you can drill in for more detail. So you can go into the employees, you can see each employee, what their status is, what measurement period they're a part of, and whether or not they're eligible, and what progress they've made on getting enrolled. And again, if you have a lot of variable hour employees and they're swinging wildly, you'll see employees go into eligibility. Then maybe the following month they lose the number of hours, so they come out of eligibility, but they're still quote-unquote eligible because there's a look-back period and stability period. I'm sorry, there's still a stability period where they're still have to be offered the coverage even though they've technically lost eligibility for it. And all of that will be tracked within the system for you, so there's no guesswork. It does take a little bit of setup, so you do need to know, the things that you're employing as far as the measurement period and the look-back period that you're employing for your group. If you have any questions about that, a little slight aside, Word & Brown has one of the foremost experts on ACA compliance on staff. If you email any kind of compliance scenario question in through your sales representative, they will get back to you with one of the most beautiful and detailed responses about the things that you need to consider for whatever scenario you've presented. And it's not just, hey, this is what I think. This is the interpretation. Here's where I got it from. Here's the links to the IRS website where you can read the specific details. And it's in such a format that you could literally just copy and paste it and send it over to your client and look like a genius. I'm all about looking like a genius. Okay, so affordability. So you can see affordability can be defined a few different ways, and then you see whether or not you're meeting it based on the 3 safe harbors, the W-2 rate of pay and federal poverty. So you know whether or not you're actually making the grade in that regard. Again, there's a little bit of setup here. You can import hours. So if you have a payroll company, or the company's doing their own payroll, say out of QuickBooks, there's generally exports that will allow you to show an employee with a unique ID and then also the time that they've worked for a specific period. There's imports here for both 1 month period and also any time frame. So we've actually done a few of these where we had to generate the 1095s. We loaded in a whole year's worth of data right on the spot. Works really well. You can also see the 1095 data for each employee. So as you're filling out 1095s, if you want to just look at the screen and actually fill out the information, you've got it all that you need right here. Of course, for $6 per form, you can actually have the system generate the 1095s itself, and it's all populated with the right data. It's a real big time saver and a real big cost saver too. And then as far as I'm going to pause the screen really quickly. As far as what to do after the fact. So after an enrollment, again, if you're leveraging our services, we're actually going to help you with all of this after the fact. So any kind of qualifying events that occur. And so what we'll do is we'll go into reports. nightly we get an email, and of course you can be set up for the same email for any changes that are made on our groups, so also on your groups. At which point you can go into the report section and you can go to manage changes. Inside of the manage changes section, you'll be able to select the company that you want to see, and you'll be able to see the employees who have had changes and then see exactly what they've changed. Not only can you see what they've changed, you can actually see who made the change. Now, of course, I hacked things because I made that change as Nicole, but in general, you would know whether or not it was a company admin, yourself, or the employee because it registers by login. You can process all these changes. So in the middle of a policy year, if an employee goes in and adds a period after street, you don't need to submit that over to the carrier, so there's nothing really to do. You can process the change and it's done. However, if the employee goes in and they add a spouse and they make a plan change, that change needs to go to the carrier. And what needs to happen is somebody, and we talk about roles and responsibilities when we first get engaged, about who's going to do what and kind of that who's on first conversation. You can download the enrollment forms that get generated by the system right here. Very, very simple to do. And then literally it's just about sending them over to the carrier to the right place. Our customer care team is engaged and they will be able to send these over for most cases. Now where we don't have a carrier relationship, obviously we can't be of support to you there. So for your guardian policies, for example, we can't help you. But we can send you the forms. So make sure you have that conversation with your online enrollment specialist when you first engage with your group to make sure that we've decided who's going to do what as far as delivery of enrollment forms during the year. And there's all kinds of customer reporting as far as activities, upcoming renewals, and then you can do ad hoc reporting, which is really fantastic. So if you want any data back out of the system, we can literally give you everything that's been input right back out of the system. So you're not tied to the system, which is really nice. If you're just going to use this for our Try Before You Buy account, you can do so very easily and then pull your data if you decide to go elsewhere as far as systems are concerned. Nobody's going elsewhere as far as Word & Brown is concerned because we're such a great company and we provide such fantastic support, right? I'm going to show you very quickly on our California website where you can find a brochure. This is the broker brochure, so this is our brochure for you. There will be one added here for you to be able to send over to your client, and it will be a few fewer pages, which is good, and it will talk less about our engagement as far as the Try Before You Buy, the free account, things like that. All of that gets stripped out, but it's coming soon, probably within the next couple of days. You have two options working with Word & Brown. You have a Try Before You Buy, which you can leverage for up to 125 employees per person at your office. And then you have a retail account. If you exceed the 125 employees and you want to continue to use the application, we're going to ask you to move into a retail account. Pricing for retail starts at $2,800 a year for a pro account, which gets you up to 1,000 employees. After which you roll into an agency account, which gets you up to 5,000 employees, and so on. Keep in mind that this $249 a month is billed annually, and there's no exception to that. Inside of the application, you get a series, by the way, setup and management. So these are our steps for managing the process, and of course, we can ad hoc any of these. So if you want to handle the day-to-day management, I have no problem with that. I'll be more than happy to hand that over to you. But if you want us to do it too, we do. You can choose the right account that works for you. And then you get these base features just built into the system. And these are all the features that I've just shown you. But there's also buy-ups. So inside of the retail account, you can actually buy up. So they have a brand new payroll component that they're working on. Not there yet. It's probably due in about May for Trax Payroll, which is a fantastic payroll partner. Trax Payroll, I actually had a very discerning broker take a look at Trax Payroll, and she moved one of her big groups over onto it. She said she was very impressed with their service, and everything's online, and it's very, very simple, and it's very, very cost effective, as you can see from our brochure about $7 per employee per month. And there's certain factors that they take into consideration. For example, if you're working with a nonprofit organization, they give you a discount. So definitely ask for that. And then there's all the rest of these features, these plan buy-ups, you can have inside of your retail account. The one that we offer is the enhanced onboarding, which we will enable for your group if you ask for it. All the rest of these are only available in the retail account. To get started, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to reach out to eastcentral@wordandbrown.com. We'll be happy to talk to you through your first case setup, make sure that you get everything online, make sure that you get all rolling. We operate setups for an initial enrollment in about 5 days, which is the shortest time and response in the industry from what I've seen. So please feel free to reach out. There are some disclaimer forms that you'll be sent. They are things that you can sign digitally online, so you don't have to actually have to download these here. We'll send them out to you through DocuSign. And then feel free to ask any questions that you guys have. This webinar has been recorded and will be applied to the entry, so using the same link that you registered from and also available through a follow-up email that I'll send out tomorrow, you'll be able to access the recording should you have any questions on things that I've actually covered. Otherwise, feel free to email me back, email the East Central team, and we'll be happy to answer any outstanding questions you have. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate your attention. If there's anything else that we can do for you to be of service, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to make sure that you guys are successful, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that comes to fruition. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys have a great and successful day. We'll see you in another webinar.